Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the Prime Minister giving more details on the gambling referendum. BTC managers ready for action following the firing of their union vice president. The latest on Tropical Storm Sandy, plus chocoholics have a new factory to take delight in. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and NB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to NB12. More details are emerging about the upcoming referendum on gambling. Prime Minister Christie revealed that the government may now only put one question to voters. He added that even if most Bahamians vote in favor of the legalization of numbers houses, it doesn't mean any and everyone will receive licenses for those businesses. The Prime Minister also gave an idea of when he'll announce the referendum date. Vonnie Toot has more.
Bahamians should know in about 1 week when they'll get to vote in the upcoming gambling referendum. That's when Prime Minister Christie says he plans to reveal the date.
I would expect to be in a position to communicate with the Bahamian public in very short order. Very short order. Not long. I don't want to be more specific than that because it really depends on my receiving some additional advice, which I expect momentarily. It could be a couple of days, most certainly not more than a week.
Mr. Christie has said on numerous occasions that the referendum will be held before Christmas. He told reporters today he has already set a date but wants to ensure that certain things are in place before he announces it. If the referendum were to be held in December, he said it would have to be at the beginning of that month, so it's not too close to Christmas. Prime Minister Christie says it is likely only one question will be put to voters.
So it's a question of whether or not this matter, we should have a law that makes it a lawful enterprise in the Bahamas. That's the question. And so is whether you agree, that a national lottery and web shops should be legalized.
Numbers houses have become big business in the Bahamas. The Prime Minister noted that even more web shops have been popping up in recent months because people suspect they will be legalized. However, he explained that the majority of Bahamians do vote in favor of these businesses, not everyone will receive licenses for them. Mr. Christie said there would be significant requirements to meet, and it will be no different than what happens in the casino businesses. Operators would have to meet some very stringent requirements when it comes down to the capacity to conduct a business of that kind. One thing which will become unmistakably clear, he said, is there is a necessity to regulate that business and not leave it unattended. For that reason, he says, his government is more focused on web shops than a national lottery.
We have had some concerns identified to us that we're looking at with respect to why the government ought to be regulating this endeavor.
The Prime Minister said dialogue continues with consultants from the United Kingdom as government compiles all the information that he feels should be shared with the Bahamian public before a referendum is held. He says he not only wants them to make an informed decision, but he wants them to be motivated to actually go out and vote. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonnie Toot.
Well, managers at the Bahamas Telecommunications company are up in arms after one of their own was fired from the company yesterday. They gathered at the BCPLU Hall on Farrington Road to discuss possible action if Cable and Wireless Communications doesn't reinstate former senior manager of legal and regulatory affairs at BTC, Elizabeth Thompson, who also happens to be the vice president of the union that represents BTC managers. Thompson received a letter from BTC's Senior Vice President of Human Resources informing her that after careful consideration, the company had decided that the continuance of her employment was not in the best interest of the company or consistent with the requirements of the company's business. The letter, which NB12 received a copy of, stated that the company decided to sever her employment without cause. According to Bahamas Communications and Public Managers Union President Talbot Colley, that is in direct conflict with the union's industrial agreement.
We reject this position as taken by management. We feel that this is a clear breach of the industrial agreement that we have in place with BTC's management. We want swift action with respect to the resolution of this matter, and we will do all that is in our power and the power of our colleagues in unions across the country to remedy this situation and follow it through to the desired conclusion.
Well, a lengthy statement from BTC charges that from as far back as 2010, Thompson was unwilling or unprepared to meet the expectations of the company, which contributed to a combative working environment. The company said Thompson, who was counsel and attorney for BTC, also tried to renegotiate a new industrial agreement on behalf of the union earlier this year, which was considered a conflict of interest. BTC said in a statement that when company executives objected to her actions, she refused to accept the position of the company. BTC also claims that senior executives continued to meet with Thompson over a period of time to arrive at an amicable solution. Well, Thompson was just recently appointed to her post following the union's elections on October 4th. Thompson, who has worked with BTC for 4.5 years, said she finds it strange she is now being fired only after becoming union vice president.
I determined when I ran for, or I allowed myself to be nominated as vice president, I determined that I would one for all and all for one. And I appear to be the person who now has been injured, but it could be any of us today or tomorrow.
Well, the union met with BTC this afternoon and has given the company 1 day to reinstate Thompson before it decides which action it will take next. BCPLU President Bernard Evans, who represents BTC line staff, said the union warned Bahamians about CWC's treatment of employees and unions 2 years ago when BTC was being sold.
But this is the vice president. This is telling us right up front that they don't care who you are, what position you may hold. When they're ready to do injustice to you, and you know what the saying is, injustice to one is injustice to all. And so we can't let this happen. And so we are here today to lend our support. All of my officers and members are ready. We got our own internal stuff going on with Cable and Wireless. They're meeting with us, trying to get some things done. And we were just waiting for something to happen. And so this could be it to get the fire started.
Now, if Thompson's name sounds familiar, that's because she was engaged in a huge controversy when she was fired from the post of Registrar General in late 2004 and subsequently sued the government, claiming then Minister of Financial Services and Investments Allison Maynard Gibson had a problem with her. Justice Hugh Small determined that there was procedural irregularity, and the Judicial and Legal Services Commission breached due process in advising to terminate Thompson. The Bahamas Communications and Public Managers Union represents 132 BTC employees and just under 200 workers throughout the country. Now, here's the latest on Tropical Storm Sandy. The Department of Meteorology has issued a tropical storm watch for the northwestern Bahamas, including the Abacos, Andros, the Berry Islands, Bimini, Eleuthera, Grand Bahama, and New Providence. At 5 o'clock, the center of the storm was located about 260 miles south-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica, or about 560 miles south-southwest of Ragged Island, with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour, with tropical storm force winds extending outward up to 105 miles from the center. The storm is moving north-northeast at 6 miles per hour. The center of Sandy will move near or over Jamaica tomorrow afternoon and near or over eastern Cuba tomorrow night. It's expected to approach the central and southeast Bahamas Thursday afternoon. The Met Office says residents in the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands should ready themselves for very strong winds and heavy rains, which could result in flying debris and flooding in low-lying areas Thursday afternoon through Friday afternoon. While the National Emergency Management Agency has contacted administrators in the central and southeastern islands to advise them to assemble their disaster committees and ensure the necessary preparations are in place. Here in New Providence, NEMA will hold a meeting with members of the various government agencies tomorrow morning at 10:30 to get the latest update from the Met Office and determine whether to partially or fully activate. In the meantime, NEMA Director Captain Stephen Russell says they will continue to track Sandy's movements.
Then we'll partially activate our operations center and fully activate it. The reason why we're monitoring it, because we know these systems have a tendency to speed up rapidly. So between now and sunset, it can probably go up to 10 miles per hour. That means the speed picks up. So whereas you're looking forward for the storm coming probably Thursday morning, it can be upon us Wednesday evening. So that's why we continue to track and monitor the system as they go along. And from the projected track, as it goes come into the Bahamas and exit the Bahamas, we're looking at almost entire of the northern central Bahamas, and to a certain extent the southeastern islands.
And Russell also said to expect heavy rainfall.
We're mindful that storms that come from the south, they normally come in quite a bit of rainfall, and we're mindful of what happened back in 2007 in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Noel, where we had major flooding in the islands of the central Bahamas. So we're urging the local committees and the councils to check the drainage systems in those various islands to make sure they're clear. So if we have this heavy rain, the communities wouldn't flood as easily as they did almost a decade or more ago.